Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel, Jurassic Collector here, and today I'm taking a look at the brand new Mattel Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Dinoscape Mega Destroyers Stegosaurus. Ever since I saw the first pictures of the Stegosaurus in box, I was so excited for it because this paint scheme gives me very heavy Lost World vibes, and I absolutely love that. I love the Lost World Stegosaurus, my favorite in the franchise, so I'm super excited to see a figure that looks pretty similar to that from Mattel. But first up, let's just take a closer look at the packaging. So of course this is a Dinoscape figure and it features everything we've come to expect on the Dinoscape packaging. I have reviewed a few Dinoscape figures on the channel now at this point, but today we are taking a look at the Stegosaurus. So we can see up here in the top left hand corner we have the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous logo, and then down here we have Toro, here we have Darius, and then we come over, it says Dinoscape Mega Destroyers Stegosaurus, and then two pictures for the call out action features, which we'll take a look at once we have the figure out of the box, and then the ages 4+, a barcode and a Mattel logo. Then when we come up here we see that beautiful broken fence in the background there and the Netflix logo. Then we have another picture to show the action button, which again we'll take a look at later on. And then we have some beautiful pteranodons with that beautiful sunset sky that we've come to expect with the Dinoscape packaging. And again, I said this in the last review of the Dinoscape figure, the packaging on the Dinoscape line is actually really beautiful. I really love it. On this end of the packaging we just have the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous logo, and on this end we have the Dinoscape logo. And here's the back of the packaging, so we can see the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous logo up here, and then the Jurassic Facts app compatibility, Dino Escape, and it says Total Tail Strike, and a picture of the action feature with the capture gear and how the figure breaks out of it. And then we have a picture of the actual Stegosaurus itself with a arrow to the button, which we'll look at. And then down here, showcasing some other figures, is the Mega Destroyers Carcharodontosaurus, which we actually did review on the channel a couple of weeks back, and you can click the card up here to check that video out. That was an awesome figure. And then just some more legal information here and the Mattel logo. Then down here it just has some instructions on how to assemble the capture gear onto the figure and how to break the capture gear off essentially. And then we just have some more legal information and the barcode there if you want to pick it up. So I did pick this figure up from Smyths Toys here in Ireland, and it was $32.99 I believe, so definitely a little bit more expensive than usual because of that capture gear, but it is starting to pop up in Targets in the US actually, which is really great to hear. That's really it for the packaging on this figure, and I'm just so excited to get this figure out. It looks so cool. So all that's left to do now is get this figure and the capture gear out of the packaging. And here's the Stegosaurus with the capture gear out of the packaging. This figure looks really cool here, and so does the capture gear, so let's throw the capture gear on and see what that looks like. And here it is with the capture gear on. It looks so cool. As you can see, it's giving me total the Lost World vibes, like 100%. That's the vibes I'm getting from this figure and the capture gear. Yeah, I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing so far. So first up, let's just take a close look at the sculpt of the Stegosaurus. So here is the Stegosaurus itself, and this figure is really well done. I have liked Mattel's previous Stegosaurus. We have had I think four. I think we have four in total now, including this. So there is 3 other Stegosauruses, 3 older ones, and I will bring some of those in later for comparisons. This is not just a repaint or just a slight retool. It's basically a brand new figure. I mean, the sculpt is different, improved. There's a lot more detail going on. The plates are in different positions, so they've swapped the rows. So this row is now here and then this row is now here, so they've swapped the positions of the plates to make them look different. It has a different it has a similar action feature with the tail, but the body is now worked into that too. The head is a completely new sculpt, and it can move in different ways, the head can, than it used to, and it is a bigger head sculpt as well. So there really is a lot more going on with it. It's not a repaint, it's a complete retool, essentially a new figure. I mean, the only thing that looks the same as the old one is the tail is the only thing that really looks similar. The plates are different though, like I said. Even down here the plates are different. Tail looks the same, maybe the front legs, but I mean the rest of the body has a vastly improved sculpt. Even the texture on the legs, the sculpt has been improved on. So it really is an impressive figure so far, just straight out of the packaging. So let's just take a closer look at the sculpt. So here we have the head of the Stego, and you can see the beak is open on this Stegosaurus, which is awesome. None of the other beaks on the Mattel Stegosauruses have been open. Now there is no detail or paint at all applied in there, which is a bit unfortunate. It kind of makes it look a bit cheap. It would have been nice for a bit of red paint in there, just for a tone. But there is still really nice detail on the head. I mean, look at all that detail packed in there. You can see it looks great. We have the eye there, which looks really well. All of this detail here, even on the plates up here, these small plates, there's a lot of texture running through them. The body itself has a bunch of detail. So we've really large scales going on up here, and then you come down here and you can see it turns into a finer pebble texture. That is really nice detail. The leg is the same here. We've loads of pebbling going on. It looks great, and we've all the toe claws there. The plates up here look really well done. They have more detail even than previous versions. I mean, you can see all of the lines running through here. It almost looks like a tree bark or something like that. It just has a lot of texture going on there, and it looks really great. All of these plates have a lot more detail and texture than previous versions. Then we come back down here. Again, we've this larger scaling going on top of the leg, and then it turns into this very fine pebble texture. You can see that there. I mean, that detail is very crisp. The detail is a lot more crisp than on any other Stegosaurus from Mattel so far. It is definitely a lot more improved, the sculpt here, which is great to see. It's not just a repaint. And again, a lot more detail packed in to the tail as well here, and to the plates along the top here as well. And then this side is obviously the same, very crisp detail going on there. Some larger scales going on along the top, and then it runs into a finer pebble texture. And it's really impressive. I am, like I said, very impressed that, you know, they've just given us basically a new Stegosaurus. It's not just a repaint or a very slight retool. You know, there's a lot more going on with it. Here's the underneath of the Stegosaurus. So it is pretty soft. There is a bit of texture going on. Underneath the feet there, you can see there is some lines. So that is really nice to see. And then the body here, we just have some more detail. And a bit softer underneath, like I said, obviously. Then there is the T-Rex stamp in the foot to let you know it is an official Mattel Jurassic World product. And then there we have the Jurassic Facts app scan code if you want to scan that into your app. So the sculpt on this figure is very impressive. Like I said, it is a lot more enhanced, the details, and it just looks better overall than the previous Stegosauruses. It has a complete new head sculpt, like I said, and it's a lot bigger, the head on this as well, in previous versions, and just the detail throughout is really impressive. So I'm really glad to see that they've done that. So next up, let's take a look at the paint job. So the figure itself is molded in this really nice, very dark moss green. The entire figure, the bottom part down here, is all molded in that, and then there is some paint applied. So we have a nice cream paint applied here. As you can see, that runs into the head here, even underneath the neck there. That is a really nice, just kind of cream beige color. And then we have a nice brown color, as you can see, and that brown, it's kind of like a red terracotta brown, and that just runs underneath the body there, and it comes off patterned. They have a nice pattern going on there to the side. I would have actually preferred a nice airbrush effect there, an airbrush transition. It would have been more like the Lost World Stegosaurus, but I'll take this. It still looks good. The plates up here are all molded in a nice brown color, so the brown up here is slightly different to the brown down here. I mean, I think that's pretty visible. It's not a jarring difference that looks bad. It is a different brown, but you know, that's what they could have been going for there. But it looks good, like I said. It is just a really nice chocolate brown color. That's what these are molded in. A very nice, rich chocolate brown color. It looks really good. And the plates up here are painted in that color, and they match that paint perfectly. It looks very similar. A little bit darker than that, but not much. It looks really similar. And the plates back here are painted too. These are all molded, like I said, in that color, but these small plates back here, these 3 plates, are painted in that same color as the plates on the head there. And the spikes here on the end of the tail, they are painted in a nice beige cream color, and it is a different color to the paint here. It is slightly more yellow back here. The eye on this figure is so tiny, so it's really hard to get in focus, but you can see it there. It's just a yellow color, and it just has a circle pupil, and the green shows through underneath. Now, it looks really well done on my figure. It's very neat. Now, I would have loved the black pupil. I always say this about the Mattel figures when they just have the color underneath showing through. I would love a black pupil. It just helps it pop a little bit better, but it doesn't actually look too bad on this figure because the eye is so tiny. So that is it for the paint job on this figure. Like I said, the paint job, I absolutely love it. It is by far my favorite paint job from Mattel for a Stegosaurus thus far. It looks so good. It looks like a Lost World Stegosaurus. Now, it is actually inspired by a Camp Cretaceous Stegosaurus. In Camp Cretaceous, there was a Stegosaurus in a scene that looked just like this, so that's where they got the idea from. It's not necessarily straight from the Lost World, but the inspiration for the Camp Cretaceous version came from the Lost World version. So ultimately, it came from the Lost World Stegosaurus, but it's the closest we're gonna get. Like, it's definitely the closest we're gonna get. Now let's talk about the articulation. So we have articulation in the head like previous versions, so it can move up and down, and it can rotate like the other versions, just like this. But what this one can do that the previous Stegos cannot, with their heads at least, is it can tilt from side to side. So you can see it's tilting over that way now, and now it's tilting over this way. That is nice there that we can just push it side to side as well, just kind of make it look in one direction more so. So that is a nice little added bit of articulation there. Then of course the legs are posable, so they kind of have like a ratchet joint system. You can kind of feel it in there a little bit. They're not too loose, which is good. Them legs can move not 360, almost it feels like it can't move back further than that, and I don't want to break it. But the legs can move, you know, enough. They can move for what you need them to do. Both legs here in the front, of course. And then we have, as you can see, a seam here. And that seam is movable, but technically not posable. It's tied into the action feature, which we'll take a look at in a minute. The leg here, however, is posable. So it's on a joint there. As you can see, it like locks in there like all the other Mattel figures. And it can move up and it can move back like so. And of course, this leg can do the very same. And then the tail is tied into the action feature like all of the other Mattel Stegosaurus. So this Stegosaurus, I guess, has 7 points of articulation, unlike the previous versions, which would have had 6. I mean, the head can move up and down and like rotate, so there's 2. And then it can also move side to side, but I'm not really sure if like all of these are separate points of articulation. I just kind of call that 1 point of articulation, but depends on the person, I guess. And then the 4 legs can move. But yeah, that's up to you to decide. But it is nice that we do have that little extra bit of movement there from side to side with the head. So now let's talk about the action feature, the Mega Destroyer feature. So this Stego does some tail swinging, like some previous versions, like all the previous versions actually. They all have a tail swinging feature, but this one is a little bit different. It's activated with the plates up here. So this plate here and this plate over here, they both activate the action feature. So when I push down on this plate, you'll see what happens. So as you can see, not only is the tail moving, you know, in all the previous versions, the tail would just move like that, kind of like side to side, but this joint here moves too. So you have a more realistic looking tail swinging action because the whole back part of the body moves. And that action feature is really fun. So then this button over here makes it move the other side. So it can move from side to side like that. It's really hard to show on camera, like incredibly difficult, because my hands are covering the Stegosaurus's face. It's the only way to really do it, I guess, like this maybe, but it's really hard to show you on camera. But it is a really, really cool action feature, as you can see. So you push this spike down and the whole body moves over that way, and then you push this spike down and the body moves over towards us this way. I really, really like the action feature, but of course it is to be used with the capture gear. So let's take a look at the capture gear quickly. So here's the capture gear in this figure. It is similar to the Cretaceous in color and stuff, and it does have the same kind of texturing going on. It is of course a completely different shape and everything. It even has some like pistons down here, which I think is really, really cool. And this is where like the spikes would stick out. I'm going to put it on it in a minute so you can see. We have some like padding sculpted in there, which annoys me that it's not painted, because padding is not a Mattel color. That always annoys me. But I mean, it, you know, for what it is, it looks really, really cool. And it is pretty big. I mean, this one is pretty big. You can see my hand here. I mean, it's almost as big as my hand. And it is pretty wide too, of course, because it has to go on the tail of the Stegosaurus. It is a little bit more awkward and tricky to put on than the Carcharodontosaurus. It takes a little bit of figuring out once you get it out of the box, but once you have it out and once you know how to put it on, you know, it's not too difficult. But it goes on there and it doesn't really close all that well. So you can see there, that's it, but it's still like there's like a big gap there in the middle, and even down here, as you can see when I push this in, that gap closes up, and now it's open again. So it's not really super tight on there, but I guess it can't be for the action feature. But it's not going to fall off just sitting on your shelf, I don't think. But it looks so, so good with this capture gear on. Let's break it out. So we're going to push down on the plates up here. I'm going to do it from this angle. It'd be a lot easier. So watch. There we go, and the Stegosaurus has broken out of the capture gear. So that's how it does it. So that is the action feature. It is pretty cool. It probably doesn't work as well as the Carcharodontosaurus. It works, not like it doesn't work as well. I just mean it doesn't fly off as with as much like power, right, as the Carcharodontosaurus. It just kind of like falls off. Whereas Carcharodontosaurus had that like trashing up and down head, so it kind of like threw it off, whereas this just kind of like falls off. But it still looks really, really cool, and when you have it displayed with the capture gear on, I think it looks amazing. Like, this looks so cool just like that there. And now it's time for some comparisons. So here I have Claire Deering in her Fallen Kingdom attire. So I mean, I guess you could pretend this is Sarah Harding if you wanted to. It just looks really cool, but I just have it in for size. It is the same size as the previous Stegosauruses, so it's nothing new on that end. It's not bigger, it's not smaller, it's obviously the same size. But it looks really, really cool with this Fallen Kingdom Claire, because it looks like kind of similar to Sarah Harding and then the Lost World Stegosaurus. So this is probably closer when I get to the Lost World Stegosaurus scene. But yeah, I mean, it looks really, really cool. So then here we have the original Stegosaurus figure from Mattel. This feels almost vintage at this point. This was the very first Stegosaurus from Mattel for Fallen Kingdom. And as you can see, it has the same tail mechanism. This one just had a button that you would push and then the tail would just swing like that. Whereas of course this new one has that whole body and tail kind of movement there, which is a really nice update to an older action figure like this. But here's the big difference between these two figures. The original Fallen Kingdom version, the head, you can see how small the head is on that figure. And I never realized how small it was until I have it beside this. Like this is my first time realizing how small it was. And the head on the new figure is a lot wider too, of course, as you can see there. I do think I prefer the new one just because it's more accurate to the Lost World. Like I said, I mean, the inclusion of that capture gear is awesome as well. But I do still love the old one, but they do look really, really cool together. And then here is my least favorite Stegosaurus from Mattel, the Dino Rivals version. This version was interesting. It had some weird colors going on, and yeah, it just wasn't for me. And here's the Mega Destroyers Carcharodontosaurus with the Mega Destroyers Stegosaurus. So these are both from the very first wave of Mega Destroyers, and I cannot wait for a second wave of these. These are hands down some of the best figures in the lineup from Dinoscape. I mean, the inclusion of this capture gear just looks so cool. The two of these together, it looks just like a Kenner lineup here. I have reviewed this Carcharodontosaurus figure on my channel. You can click the card up here to check that video out. But the two of these just look so cool together. I mean, absolutely awesome. So I really cannot wait. There is apparently rumored to be a couple more Mega Destroyer figures coming, and I cannot wait. The capture gear is just adding so much more personality to the figures, and it just looks so much cooler. I mean, it really does. I love the two of these together. And then here's the Stegosaurus with the Ford Explorer from Jurassic Park, my favorite vehicle from Mattel and from any Jurassic line ever. It is just so beautiful. I absolutely adore this, as you guys know by now. And if you don't know, if you haven't seen my review, make sure to check it out up here as well. I did a review on my channel. It is really cool size-wise. I mean, the Stegosaurus towers over it. Like, the spikes are up a lot higher than the Ford Explorer. And I mean, these can look really cool together too. I mean, I get that obviously this is from Jurassic Park. This is from, well, inspired by the Lost World, technically from Camp Cretaceous, but they look great together. It's just a really good looking Stegosaurus, and it just kind of works with any situation. So that's it for my review of the brand new Mattel Jurassic World Mega Destroyers Stegosaurus figure. Overall, I absolutely love this figure. I highly recommend it if you can pick it up at all. Yes, it is another Stegosaurus, but the sculpt has been vastly improved. There's a lot more detail going on. The action feature is a lot cooler than the previous versions. The paint job is really nice and inspired by the Lost World, and it comes with capture gear. So what do you guys think of this new Stegosaurus figure from Mattel? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. So that is it for today's review. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button down below, and also please do subscribe down below if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, peace out. Rah, rah.